Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Obvious Choice Podcast. So good to talk at you, although I like to think that I'm talking with you, but let's be honest, I'm talking at you. You're listening. I don't know who you are. And I'm talking at you. So hi, welcome. Last time that we spoke, we went deep into sales. That was a super in-depth. And today I kind of want to continue that conversation. And I want to hit on 6 common sales traps to avoid. These are relatively quick, although I think we'll probably have some discussions about it. We're going to talk about different types of objections. We're going to talk about the no money objection, the I need to speak to my spouse objection, and the I need to think about it objection. How does that sound?
Sounds awesome, John.
Excited.
There we go. Feedback. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you.
Sky comma.
I get so many people talking to me about pressing the flesh. They're like, yo, man, I can't wait to meet you in person to press the flesh.
We should start merch for like all of the really uncomfortable phrases that come from this podcast. We'd probably make a lot of money doing that. Press the flesh, belly to belly, sky comma.
We would make at least $17. Okay. So I'm tired, y'all.
$1.
This goes.
You got that look, John.
I know. Well, I've been waking up super early to write, which has been going well. But Calvin's having night terrors, dude. He's just he is the worst. He must have been up 8. No, I stopped counting at a certain point, just screaming last night, and then I'm getting up at 5:30 to write and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm gonna try to sleep as well. Yeah, but you know what? You too. Speaking to you fills my cup. And that's what they say. That's when they say, when you have a passion for what you do, you don't need to sleep because you get so much energy from the thing you're doing that you have passion about. And you know what I'm passionate about today, my friends? Can I tell you? Can I tell you what it is?
Please tell us.
It's coaching sales traps to avoid.
Okay,
now I know that might seem obvious. Okay. I know that might seem obvious to you that that's something you're passionate about. I was actually super hesitant. Thanks for support.
You're so wired.
I'm so wired, but like pretending to be wired. I to be honest, I mean, this section, I hesitated to include it in the book, and we'll see if it makes it in the final book. So, and the reason for that is I don't want people to be scared to get on the phone and like learn about a potential client, because I don't think that there are ways that you're going to screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you listen to the last episode where we go deep into sales, you will see just how consultative the process is. It's a coaching session. It's not a sales session. And as long as you go into it with that mindset, I don't think there's any way to screw it up. So I'm really hesitant to talk about this and to include it in the book. But I almost felt like I had to. Like there's 6 traps you kind of need to look out for. And if you fall into any of these, again, don't stress, it's fine. But just you should be aware of them and like try not to do it next time. So the first one, and you guys, what I'll do is I'll give a period at the end of each one.
Sure you will, John.
And you can come in if you want, or just say, okay, tell me about number 2.
No, nobody here believes that there are any periods coming at any point in this podcast.
Number 1, losing control of the call. Period. You're the coach. The coach dictates the pace of the call. In order to help your client and to be viewed as an expert, you have to get all the information you need in a structured, sequential way. So in the call, I talked about the transition statements and how important they are for framing the call. The other reason why they're so important, and again, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, listen to the previous episode because I go deep into it and I tell you exactly what these transition statements are, literally read them out to you. So these transition statements give the call structure and also keep you in the expert seat. So the biggest mistake, number 1 mistake, is just losing control of the call, period.
Yes, John, that's right. As you finished that aforementioned sentence, I knew that it was time for me to begin to speak. So we talked yesterday about framing the call, and what I've said to many coaches is that, and John, you can tell me if this is bullshit or not, John, because you like to do that. You like for me to say things and say, yeah, I don't agree with that. Let's move on. So tell me if this is bullshit. Professionals have a process, right? And I think secretly in the back of our minds as consumers, we want to poop all over the process, but subconsciously we also don't respect the person if they let us poop all over the process. Would you say that that's true? Do you believe that?
Let me think about this.
Think about that.
Yeah. Drum roll, please, Amber. I do not think that that's bullshit, Ren. I think that is a very smart statement. I think that rigidity in the process is really, really important. I think that rigidity in the entire process is important for both for you to be viewed as an expert, to give you structure, to make sure that you continue to improve, and also that you can get the information that you need.
Yes.
You wouldn't respect a doctor if you went to a doctor and the doctor didn't have any rigidity in their process, would you?
Hey, if that clipboard ain't there with the pen attached to it by a chain, I'm walking the fuck out of there. I'm not going to any doctor that doesn't have a clipboard with a pen attached to a chain. That's a quack.
So I worked at a summer camp when I was in university for 4 years.
Of course you did, John.
And it's a very Jewish thing to do. And all Jews right now are nodding their heads. They're like, yeah, summer camp, of course. Anybody who's not a Jew is like, what the hell is a summer
This
camp?
one time at summer camp.
So it was a sports camp, and I was on baseball staff 1 year, and then I ran the hockey program for a couple of years. And a side note, we had a very competitive ball hockey league with all the counselors at the camp, and it was super competitive. And the MVP award for that league is now named after me because I dominated that.
No
league
way.
So much. Yeah.
No
so
way.
I actually there is somewhere in this world there is a most valuable player award named after
this
me.
feels like two truths and a lie. And that's the lie.
I'll show you it. I have a picture of it. You know how I found out about it? They didn't even tell me when they did it. I found out about it because somebody who I was friends with, who I worked at camp with, had become a doctor and then went back to work as a doctor at the camp. Her name's Sari Kraft, and she was the doctor at the camp. And she's like, "You ever seen this shit?"
Man,
and it's like a plaque with a picture of me from when I was like, I don't know, 19. And it's called the Goodman Award, and they have been awarding the Goodman Award to the MVP of this league for 6 years, and nobody ever thought to tell me about it.
Whatever point we were moving towards is gone now.
What were we talking about? The clipboard. That's why. So one of the things that I did, as you know, I get bored, and I basically just like, one of the reasons why I like to write so much is because I get bored, and then when I get bored, I just make up stories in my head that I think are funny, and then I just write those down, and it's like it just keeps me entertained. And so one of the things that I used to do at the camp all the time is I would just play pranks on kids and like screw with kids because it was just really funny to do it. And so one night, because I was the head of the activity, which is the cushiest job ever, which means that during the day I basically get to play ball hockey with kids, which translated, I basically get to like bounce the ball over kids' heads and like pull it between their legs and stuff, and just like watch them like fall down as they try to get it. It's great. Like I broke so many kids' ankles with a ball hockey stick, and so because I can dangle, but we so
I don't know what that is.
So one time, you were at the Hockey Hall of Fame. So one night,
oh my God.
One night the kids were at an activity, and I didn't have anything to do at night because I wasn't the counselor for the kids. My work day basically ended at like 5, and so I grabbed a clipboard, and I had a clipboard, and I was just writing on the clipboard, and I'd look at the kids, and I'd just be like, serious consequences. Serious consequence. And I'd be writing on the clipboard and nobody would see it. And these kids would be like tweaking out, right? And all that I'd be doing is writing on the clipboard over and over again. Having a clipboard makes me look important. Having a clipboard makes me look important.
And that's how I chose my doctor.
And that's why I became a personal trainer. That was the day that I learned that having a clipboard made me look important. And I became a personal trainer soon after.
This episode's off the rails.
The second trap that people fall into in sales is not building appropriate rapport. And so it's really important just to use their first name. I don't know, I really shouldn't have to say this. Use their first name when you start the call, foster a connection with them early on. If you fail to do this, it's going to be harder to get them to open up during the discovery phase of the call. That's a period, but I'm not going to let you interject because it's so goddamn obvious. We're just going to move on. Number 3, comforting them when they break down. We actually talked about this in the last episode a little bit. They didn't come to you for therapy. They came to you for change. Even if you're a therapist, the sales call isn't a therapy session. If you're a good person, which I hope you are, because we don't want no jerks listening to this podcast. By the way, dear listener, you are looking great today. Can I just say that? You're going to want to tell them if they break down that things are going to be okay and not to worry and it's all right. And, you know, pat them on the back, metaphorically, whatever, through the phone, or if you're in person, even like give them a hug and like console them. You got to kind of resist that urge. Because the best response when they break down is no response. You need to stay silent and listen. And in response to your silence, they might open up even more. A lot of this call's job is to identify and illuminate the tension that already exists in their own mind. Because without that tension, there's not going to be any change. They came to you for change and they desperately want change. Without pain, there's no progress, right? So don't go out of your way to elicit pain. You're not like twisting a knife into their leg, like Face Off with Nicolas Cage, where he takes this knife and sticks it in the guy's leg and then twists it. And I feel like that final scene of that movie, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but they both should have died at least 10 times. You're not trying to go that far and twist that knife into that leg and then like dig a big hole out, which for some reason they could still run afterwards, even though they have like a 2-inch hole in their quad gone. You're not trying to do that. You're not Nicolas Cage. Okay?
It's a good movie.
And if you are Nicolas Cage, thank you so much for listening to the Obvious Choice podcast.
Thanks for being here, Nick. You're probably on your way to the Declaration of Independence right now as we speak. You can do it.
Instead, what you got to do is you got to let that tension sit there and let the client use it to light a fire under their ass to change for the better. That's a period. Is there anything, we did speak about this in the last episode, but is there anything either of you want to add to that? And
I got
you
nothing.
look like you got some.
It makes me think of the movie Inside Out. And
Good,
so
another movie reference. Go on.
Yes, exactly. Since we're on that roll. Right. And so I can't remember the character's name, but the pretend friend, the imaginary friend, he's
Bing
crying. Bong. Bing bong. Thank you. Oh, I
How
love that
do you
you
know
know
this?
that. I'm so
That's why I'm
proud.
here.
I can't
The
remember
only
anything.
childless
So that's
person
extra.
here.
Exactly. But Bing Bong's crying. And then we have Joy, who's like toxic positivity, right? It's like, it's okay. And then we have sadness, and sadness like lets him process. Right. And so like the whole idea is not to fix it for them. It's to let them process. And that means shutting your face. And so let them process and think and feel it. Then they'll be able to kind of continue that journey.
It was a
That's
way
all I
better
have.
reference than my Nicolas Cage face.
Much better.
Yeah,
Great.
I've never seen the movie, so I couldn't relate. So I needed something.
Great
It
movie.
was, I mean, I don't know why. I thought it made no sense at all. It wasn't
It's a good
even a good movie.
It's a
Nah,
great movie.
questionable. Number 4. Coaching them before they buy. Big mistake, coaching them before they buy. Your instinct is going to be to solve their problems as soon as you hear them. This is going to be a Band-Aid solution. There's really only superficial help that you can offer on this quick call. If you want to actually solve their problem, they become a paying client. There's not much more to it. When people pay, they pay attention. And also, it's probably going to take some work. If they wanted just a quick piece of advice, they could have Googled that. Clearly, that's not what they need. That's a period. I'm doing good with these periods.
This is a big one. This is the more knowledgeable you perceive yourself to be, the greater the likelihood that you fall into this trap on a phone call with a client, potential client.
Say that again.
The more knowledgeable that you perceive yourself to be, like when you were high on your knowledge after graduating with your kinesiology degree and you told Tom all about himself and put him against the checkerboard wall and assess his posture.
Yeah.
Like the more knowledgeable you perceive yourself to be, the greater the likelihood that you fall right into this trap on a phone call. Because you're
So when you're at the top of Mount Stupid.
Yeah,
When you're
Mount
at the
Stupid.
top when you're at the top of the Dunning-Kruger curve.
Or when
basically.
you are super insecure. That's the other half of that coin, yeah.
Well, is it insecurity though, or is it? I guess it's insecurity, because I guess a lot of it is overcompensating for your own.
Let me prove that I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Because I know I won't speak for Amber, so I'm just going to speak for her.
It's okay. I trust you. You.
We run into a lot of that with coaches on coach. Like there's a pattern of the type of coach that has certain coaching problems, and it's really easy to read the insecurity in how they present themselves on a coaching call. Like it's noticeable.
It's like my two friends, Rudy and John. Like,
are these real people?
Like, yeah, but it's not the real name.
Real friends.
Okay, all right.
Like Rudy shows up with his designer shirt with like this designer man's satchel. We're gonna call it a post because it's a post, Rudy. I think you do listen to this podcast, Rudy, and you know who you are. It's a post. So he's got this designer post and and designer shirt, and then John shows up and he's got like a basic t-shirt or whatever it is. It's like John has way more money than Rudy does. Right. The reason that John doesn't feel like he needs to show off is because he knows he has way more money.
Right.
And he doesn't need to show that off. He's confident in that. But it's a purse. It's a purse. Any more on this before we move on to number 5? Number 5, ignoring the script and process. I went over the process in detail last episode. And there's some redundancy in the process. That's very much on purpose. When you ask the same question in different ways, people go deeper. I don't know if you've ever done any IQ testing or psych assessments or anything like that, but what you will notice whenever you do, there's a personality test. I've done a lot of personality tests because I think that knowing oneself is the most important thing that you could ever do. People study for years and years and years and years a whole bunch of other shit, and they have no idea how their own body and their own mind operates, and it just makes no sense, because how could you possibly pretend to take in the information that's outside in the world if you have no idea how your own brain even operates and what it desires? And so I've taken a lot of personality tests. And what you will notice when you do these things is that there's a lot of repetition in the questions, but they're often either asked differently or the order of like the multiple choice answers are different. And what that's doing is that's analyzing what your real answer is. If they just ask a question once, it might not give the real answer. So asking the question different ways allows the client to go deeper. Contrasting their painful present with their hopeful future is what you need to both get their buy-in for coaching and also understand why they really want to change. And that allows you to better serve them from day one, which is really the key. Like, are you going to start on day one of the coaching, understanding what the client really desires, understanding what their frustrations are, understanding their bad experiences, or are you going to start on day one with a very superficial, I want to lose 5 pounds? How do you think you're going to be more successful as a coach and also as a business person? Period.
We often ask our clients not to deviate. The mantra, trust the process, right?
Do we deviate on this podcast?
No, I mean, not trusting the process unless you combine 5 and 6 in one thing.
So I spoke to a literary agent today on the phone, and about this book, big shot literary agent in Manhattan, and one of the things that I said to her about like one of the reasons why one of the things that I'm nervous about is if I go conventionally published, one of the things I enjoy about self-publishing is I can put my personality in it. I can make funny jokes, not funny jokes, but I think that they're funny jokes. And I just read her this passage. I was like, so, one of my things that I'm a little bit nervous about is that they'll remove it. Like they'll remove it and they'll remove the personality. They'll remove like what I really love about writing from the book. And I was just like, here's an example. I'm like, now this one's particularly weird and deviating. I didn't say deviating, but like out there. But here's an example of what I mean. I was like, up until now, we focused, this is just like a phrase from the book, right? Up until now, we focused exclusively on number one, getting new clients. If you're new or in the earlier stages of your business, that's probably the only place for you to focus. It has nothing to do with the section, but it's 5:30 a.m. and I'm waiting outside when my family sleeps and a fly just flew into my coffee and I didn't notice and I drank my coffee and ate the fly. I'm not mad because protein. And then I just continue with the book. This is like a big shot literary agent in like Manhattan. I'm talking about this asinine, like just aside that I'm writing. I'm like, so it's really important to me, very serious person who's very good at what you do, that this type of idiocy, it remains in my artistry.
This explains so much about our relationship and why we get along. Is everything in that passage?
Deviation. Go on, Ron.
Sure, randomness. I got no clue what I was talking about. What do we?
Number 6, talking too much.
I'm
done. Oh, we don't do this.
Ironic.
Number 6, talking too much. So the sixth and final common trap to fall into on a sales call is you talk too much. The less you say, the more weight it carries. Most important thing to remember on a sales call: open your ears, shut that big fat hole underneath your nose.
Oh, that was a bit racy. So, yeah, I agree with that. Now that we're back on topic. And we talked about that in the previous episode. We talked about talking too much and how you talk yourself out of. I don't even think that I think it's an incorrect phrase to say you talk yourself out of a sale. More so, I would say you don't appropriately listen your way into a sale. More appropriately.
I like that inversion.
Yeah, I like inversions, man.
Mm-hmm.
I always did before I got kicked out of the engineering department at my university. I was fond of the physics and chemical inversions, Boyle's law, gas, things like that. But in any case, yeah, that's what I think.
I am also a fan of Boyle's law. Don't ask me any more questions about it, though.
You just can't. All the good things that you have at your disposal for coaching someone through an enrollment, you lose them when you don't hear anything. Like, you got no stuff. Your stuff's gone. You're unstuffified. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure.
I'm done.
It is now.
All right. So 6 common coaching traps to avoid. I'll go through them really quick, and then we're going to move on. Number 1, losing control of the call. Number 2, not building rapport. Number 3, comforting them when they break down. Number 4, coaching them before they buy. Number 5, ignoring the script and process. And number 6, talking too much. Moving on. Nobody is excited about their freaking phone bill. What is exciting, though, is talking to that girl from the dating app. What's exciting is sharing the announcement of a new baby in your group family chat. What's exciting is being able to explore a remote beach in Mexico and uploading pics to social media. Now, if a phone company promotes that you get 5 gigabytes of data as opposed to 7, do you really know what that means? I feel like it's one of those things that we all kind of pretend that we know what it means, but it's all pretty magical. You know what I'm saying? You press a button on a metallic box, a signal shoots down from space, and the light emitting diode installed on that metallic box, which is your screen, shows you anything you want from the combined knowledge of all human history to random facts like who hit the walk-off home run for the Toronto Blue Jays in the 1993 World Series. Mr. Joe Carter, touch them all, Joe. To videos of pandas eating bamboo, which, by the way, I feel like I'm a pretty good dad. But if there is a video of a panda eating bamboo, I'm going to readily admit that I'm going to ignore my children and watch that video.
That's so appropriate.
Most coaches kind of sell their coaching, though, like it's a phone bill, don't they? When you sign up for John's fabulous and fantabulous coaching, you get 3 calls with me spread out over 2 months, an update to your plan every 2 weeks, and access to my private community.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Now I know what you're thinking. Awesome coaching company name, John. But also, I mean, thank you. But also, none of that's particularly compelling. Even saying it in idiotic circus voice, you're still like, I don't want to be in your private Facebook group, dude. Like, that doesn't sound like it's really fun. So don't write out your services like they're a phone bill. What you do to get your clients' results only matters in as much as it relates to what the client actually wants. Period.
– Oh, the features and benefits conversation in the OTA level 1 coaching calls.
You guys must get this all the time. When you're mentoring our online trainer academy students, you guys must get this.
I'll let Amber talk.
Yeah.
I feel like Amber's under-talked today.
Amber was under-talked yesterday. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
She was tired yesterday. It was that was loud.
I'm already kind of weird enough as it is, but sleep deprived me is really weird. I was trying to rein that in.
Nobody wants that.
No, because this is recorded that the universe will see. I can't take it back. We say so what all the time, right? Like you get a customized workout program. So what, right? After the so what is the benefit. That's what they give a shit about. Right. And so all of these features, like the cheat sheet to this is add the phrase, so what afterwards. Mm-hmm. And that will help start getting into the meat of it that they actually care about. So I'm actually working on, we're working with a coach a while back on this, and we're trying to figure out like, how do we help them rejig, this feature list. And so talking to them about like, well, my client really hates cooking, like they suck at it. It's not something that they're interested in. And so the last thing that they should be doing is offering a meal plan. Right. But they were offering a meal plan. And so instead, we just kind of, veered off and decided to give them permission to eat out. And so part of the benefit package was getting to eat out all the time, never having to cook, right? Versus like a meal plan, which doesn't do anything for them, but like the benefit of never having to cook, getting to eat out all the time and still achieving their goals and being able to sell that versus, oh, you get this great meal plan,
Yay. You get a meal plan that you don't actually want.
No.
I like that so what question. I wrote that down. I'm going to add that in at the end of that section.
That was an FMM like forever ago, just FYI.
Really?
Yes. I did actually read our FMM stuff. It was great.
So did I. It was phenomenal. But it just feels like a different life. I feel like so much of what we used to do with the PTDC is just a different life.
It is.
I was also like not involved in a lot of it, right? Like that was during the period where we had just such a strong editorial team with Lou at the helm and management team. I mean, we were pretty staffed up at that time. And so I was not that involved in a lot of it.
Yeah. But yeah, it was some great stuff in there. But so what came from that? And that's something I talk to like literally every student about is how to transition from a feature to a benefit using that.
Do you mind finding me that and sending it?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
I once threw my FMM magazine down the steps and then reversed the video and pretended to be a Jedi.
I remember that.
And sent the video.
Nobody here knows what FMM is, and I don't want to sell it. So let's not talk about it anymore. Sales objections or coaching opportunities. Okay. This is going to transition into the sales objection section. So sales objections, the coaching opportunities. You want objections. I want to reframe this. Salespeople don't like objections. In sales, they're thought of as roadblocks. In sales, you'll hear things like you're combating them. In sales, you'll hear people talk about going into battle when they pick up their phone. I think that words matter. This isn't a fight. Objections aren't rejections. They're invitations to go deeper. Getting an objection means the client wants to engage more. If they weren't interested, they'd end the conversation. So instead of arguing when you get an objection, instead of taking that on emotionally and thinking, oh my God, they hate me, or this is wrong, or they're wrong, seek understanding. When you hear an objection, your goal is to uncover what's behind their concern. It's to get deeper inside their head. Don't react emotionally. Put on your coaching hat. Curious skeptic. Here's some just basic questions before we get into like the specific no money. I need to talk to a spouse. I need to think about it. More questions. Questions are your ammo. All that you need are good questions. If you are good questions and you get good at asking questions, you will always be able to sell and serve and coach. Here's some good questions when you're met with an objection. How do you mean? Why do you say that? I'm curious. Why do you put it that way? How'd you arrive at that? Why do you feel that way? Can you tell me more about that? Hey, do you mind if I ask where you got your information on that? That's it. Basic shit. All you're trying to do is just learn why they think what they think. It's possible you'll find out that you won't be able to deal with it. It's possible you'll find out that they really love Tracy Anderson and they really think that nobody should ever lift more than 3 pounds, and that it's important to bring the muscle closer to the skin, away from the bone as you do sets of 100 reps, not understanding that if you're going to pick up your damn child, you're going to pick up heavier than 3 pounds. But I mean, logic doesn't have any place in this. Maybe they really like that and agree with that, and there might not be anything you can do. But in most cases, when you understand better why they think what they think or where it comes from, you'll be granted an opportunity to coach them. Anything to add to there?
Yes. Not only are you understanding better, but I just really think that we don't understand the value of a potential client hearing what they think out loud by saying it. Right? It's super because when I get to, I'm curious. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. And people get so stumped at that question.
Has anybody ever said to you after they've told you more about it, they're like, well, that sounds really stupid when I say it?
I do it every day.
Has that happened?
100% all the time. But now that I hear that, Rin,
that sounded way better in my head.
Right. That sounded way better in my head. That doesn't make any sense, does it? And I'm like, I'm not here to judge whether it makes sense or not. I'm just trying to connect you to your own thoughts. Right. So it's such a good question to just get somebody to say the dumb shit they're thinking out loud. No disrespect to our potential clients out there who are listening. But yeah, man, that's helpful.
Yeah.
That's
okay. What do you want first? No money, or I need to speak to my spouse/partner?
Ooh, the spouse partner one.
Okay.
I hate that.
I don't know.
Cringy. It's cringy for me.
Okay.
Educate us, Jonathan.
No matter what, it's very common that relationship dynamics that you aren't privy to are going to play a role in both your coaching and, of course, the selling of your coaching. Spousal partner objections doesn't have to be a spouse. Could be a partner, could be a business partner, right? Could be any life partner or temporary life partner, or if you're polyamorous, partners. We're cool. We're cool. Polyamorous.
They're not listening
cool,
anymore,
guys.
John.
We're cool.
They've been gone 5 episodes ago. You pissed them off already. We got no polyamorous listeners left.
One from in front, one from behind. I get it.
Oh my God.
But spousal objections, they're tricky, right? No, when you're walking hand in hand.
Whatever, John. Oh my God. So, earmuffs for the kids, listeners.
I feel really bad for the listeners of this podcast who are like mums or dads, and they're making dinner right now, and their kids
driving their kids to school in the morning.
Right, and they're listening to this.
They know we curse. Anyway, it's fine.
Spousal objections are tricky. There's very often really deep emotional stuff behind the scenes, and it's none of your goddamn business.
Right.
The same principles of curious, confident skepticism apply with spousal objections. Your line of questioning should, I think, dig deeper, but in a very respectful and empathetic way. And in many cases, it's going to end up with setting up a 3-way call with your client's spouse at the end. So the first thing that you want to do is just isolate the objection. Whenever you meet an objection, it's just important to isolate it and just make sure that that's the real objection. So you might say something like, I get it. Totally appreciate that. Now, other than your partner, let's say they say yes, is there anything else that's keeping you from being less than 100% certain that this is the right thing and now is the right time? You pause for a second. And you ask the question again. In other words, if they said yes, would you be signing up? Again, ask the question again, ask the question in a different way. You'll get more information, you'll get more buy-in. You pause again. Why would you be signing up? Why would that be a yes for you? Going deeper, right? We start surface level. We always go deeper and deeper and deeper. You pause, you wait for them to respond. When you say you need to talk to your partner, do you need to talk to them to get their permission? Or is it more of like a courtesy thing? Pause. If they say it's a courtesy, you say, okay. If this is just courtesy, what do you think they're going to say? You pause. And why would they say that? You pause. If it's a permission thing, you say, well, what do you mean by that? Just because oftentimes with permission, it's like, oftentimes when it's a permission thing, to run your point before, it's something they've never actually verbalized. Mm-hmm. And this might be the first time they ever actually say it. And so, well, what do you mean by that? Like, give them a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of just like think through it and give them a little bit more space. And then you pause. And then I would just continue with something like, have you talked to them about some of the things you told me today? Have you had that open and honest conversation about how you're feeling? Pause, wait for them. How supportive is he, she, they, whatever, right? How supportive are they? What makes you say that? Can you give me some examples? What do you think they're really going to say when you ask? And this is all just, you know, you're not judging, and how you ask matters. It's just you're curious, right? And then, okay, let's reverse the roles. If you knew that they felt the same way, so remember a couple episodes ago, we were talking about invert, always invert, right? With these types of situations, inversion helps you a lot because it allows you to voice this conversation differently. It also helps the client a lot in seeing it from a different way and from somebody else's point of view. Inversion, super, super important for seeing things that don't exist and for understanding situations better. So you're going to invert it. Okay, let's reverse the roles. If you knew that they felt the same way you do right now, if you knew exactly how they felt inside, and they came to you and you said, listen, I found the solution here. I found somebody who can help. Finally, I'm able to break through these 3 years of BS. I'm ready to do something about it. What would you tell them? Would you say it's not the budget, knowing how you feel right now? Would you say no? And then you can decide how you're feeling. It's important in this conversation to kind of do a litmus test. Depending on where it's at, usually what I would recommend people do is make one careful, empathetic, caring appeal to try to overcome the spouse objection before lining up a three-way call. So then I might continue with just something like, is there a chance that someone who loves you would ever say no? Okay, I think you know what to do then. Let's just do it. Those last two ones, you may choose to use, you may not. It's a comfort thing on your end. It's going to be specific to the call. Oftentimes, even if you do say it, they're still going to insist on speaking to their spouse. Totally cool. Line up a three-way call. Most important thing with the spouse objection is to gauge your personal comfort here. How you navigate the above line of questioning is going to kind of depend on how much your client is willing to open up to you to this point. And unfortunately, this type of objection, spouse or partner objections, could result from everything from broken relationships to sometimes abusive ones. There could be trauma you're unaware of. And the reality of it is, it's none of your goddamn business. So while I do believe in many cases that creating tension's valuable, necessary, helpful, this is the one place where I kind of tread lightly, and I believe very strongly in just reading the room. Anything to add on that? This is spells or objections are the trickiest ones for sure.
It's the most appropriate place for your best listening ears. And the extent to which you listened earlier in the call can very much inform you through the context of the answers that you're getting as you're diving deep into these questions, because sometimes someone can give you the verbiage that lines up with it being fine and a tone that lines up with indicating that it's in no way fine to go through this line of questioning. And like you said, John, this is where experience comes in. To be perfectly honest with you, like you may foul this one a few times before you get it right, but it's not a good reason not to try to go down the line of questioning, because you got to get really nuanced in being curious more than judgmental. And it really does depend on what you listened to previously in the call and the tone that you use now. And putting on that coaching hat, man, instead of that sales hat. Any sales hat stuff through here, it's gonna be problematic, for sure. Those are my thoughts.
What does that mean? I mean, I know what that means, but I think it's valuable for you to share what that means.
Yeah, so you're going to war at this point. If you're pulling out your best stuff, and if you got your most clever rebuttals. Oh, and I really exposed her on the phone. She didn't know what to say. Like, if that's your mentality going through this, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot, and then fall on the gun and shoot yourself in the chest, and then roll over to rub your eyes and accidentally shoot yourself in the face.
That was a fun visual. Thanks for that.
It wasn't bad. It was good. It was one of the better ones.
Yeah, don't do those three things.
Anything else to add, Amber, before I move on to the no money objection?
No, I have something to round it all up at the end, potentially. But
oh shit, Amber's gonna get the last word in. All
nice. Right. Excited about this.
I need to speak to my. Oh wait, no, we already did that one. Shit. The no money objection. I'm tired, man.
You were doing so well.
I'm tired.
You faked it so good for the first 75% in this show.
Did I? I feel like the beginning was rough. I feel like
it was fun.
I like Wired John.
I feel like we're throwing some gold nuggets here that most people are not going to listen to, because people logged off at the beginning. They're like, these jokers are just not feeling it today. I'm out.
No, you're doing great, John. It's perfect podcast. The best one ever.
No money objection. Mm-hmm. Okay. Money's rarely the real objection. Occasionally it is. Usually it's not. In order to sign up, a client needs to answer 2 questions in a month. Why you? Why now? Clients have an uncanny ability to find the money once they trust you and recognize how important it is for them to change right now. So when you hear a money objection, isolate them shits. Gotcha. Totally appreciate it. Other than money, is there anything else that's keeping you from being 100% certain that this is the right program and now is the right time? If they say yes, then whatever they say is the real objection. If they say no, then it's a money objection. From here, it's a pure coaching conversation. And coaching conversations are hard. So, dear listener, who, again, I mean, you are looking great today. If we were together, I'd give you a bro hug just before you were going to start this conversation. It'd have 2 back pats, no more, no less.
No 2 Mississippis.
Try to give me a third, it's going to get awkward.
Yeah,
not 2 Mississippi.
Okay.
Nah, it's back pats. There ain't no Mississippis. Coaching conversations are hard, right? Especially ones where you're met with objections. There's already a fair bit of tension to this point. So this is hard. There will be tension. So here's what I want you to picture when the next time you have a no money objection, you're working through this. And if you want to send me an Instagram message at It's Coach Goodman that just says bro hug, I will give you a internet bro hug back. Whatever the hell that means, I'll figure it out when you send me that message. As a congratulations for doing this. So the minute that you get a no money objection, imagine me bro hugging you, back tapping you twice as you read this, encouraging you to be calm, confident, curious, and then imagining Amber just shaking her head that she somehow got herself into this mess with me and Ren on this podcast.
I think you're actually turning people off from following through with this, John, with all the bro hug talk.
Here's how you'll navigate it. All right. First line. Is it because you have the money and you don't know if you want to spend it, or because you don't have the money? So if they say they have the money, would you be open to some coaching feedback? Pause. You know, a lot of people think the coaching starts when the program starts, but the coaching starts right now on the call today. As your coach, do you want me to tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? You sure? You know, you seem like somebody who values honesty, and not everybody likes hearing honest feedback. Pause. So, their name. Here's what you told me 20 minutes ago, and then you'll say back to them what they said. And in 20 minutes, nothing's changed. But since I introduced the price, I'm noticing a lot of resistance from you. I'm feeling like there's something that's different. And I just want to point out that this is the exact resistance, in my opinion, that's kept you exactly where you're at. And that's why you're here, right? Because based on your previous experiences, you've always felt that resistance that you feel right now. All that is fear, and that's fine. But that's why I'm here. That's why people hire a coach. If the fear wasn't there, everybody'd have six packs and be drinking coconut water on the beach. Now, that's not the case because of the two choices people make when fear is introduced. They either retreat or they step over the fear and get on to the next level of development. So let me ask you, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of person who retreats anytime that fear is present? Or do you want to be the Ren 2.0, the person we talked about 20 minutes ago? And let me guide you through it. So who do you want to be? Person A or person B? Pause. Okay. Let me hold your hand and walk you through it. Done this a lot of times. This isn't my first rodeo, right? You can tell. So what do you say? Let's freaking do it. Okay. So that's if they say they have the money. I'll go on to if they say they don't have the money, but any reactions to that first?
I got nothing.
Thanks. Amber? Cool. Nothing? All right. Good talk. Okay. If they say they don't have the money. Okay. So you're not in a position of should I do it, but you're more in a position of how do I do it? You say yes. So it sounds like you're ready to do this. So is it just that you don't have a card you could put it on, or you don't have a savings account, or what? It's not really a useful question. It's just asking the question a different way to get more information before you move forward. That's all it is. It doesn't really matter the answer to that question, right? Pause. Okay. Everything we do is customized. And while we don't have any set payment plans per se, however, in certain cases, we might be able to break it up. Now, in order for us to do that, we need to know exactly where you're at financially in order for us to see what makes sense. Because I don't want to be taking your last dollar from you, but I also don't think what's best for you is to do nothing. Would you agree? With that having been said, would you be open to having an honest, with that having been said, would you be open to having an honest conversation about your finances to see if we can make something work? Or at the very least, come up with a game plan. Pause. Are you sure? Okay, great. Have you been saving for something like this? So starting with cash on hand, what does that look like for you? What about credit? When do you get paid next? Okay. What would make it easier for you to make the investment? And then you just figure out what it is. So then you're, okay, what if we split this up into 2, 3, or 4 payments? So instead of a pay in full, we do 3 payments of X, all spread over 30 days apart. That'll allow you to see some results, work within your budget, get the ball rolling. You might, like, I remember I had clients back in the day, personal training clients, who we would take the first payment from them. And it would be like relatively small. And then we would wait like 5 days until they got their paycheck. Like they wouldn't even want to wait 30 days. They just needed to wait 5 in order to do it. So it's important to just get this information out and figure out what works. And again, you might decide along with the client that this isn't the right time for them because you don't want to take their last dollar. But you also know that what you have is potentially transformational for them. And so it's worth it. Right? So anyway, you know, selling is coaching. Coaches are willing to ask the hard questions. If you're not willing to ask the hard questions when somebody's starting with you, you're not going to be willing to ask the hard questions when they're coaching with you. You're not going to be able to get them results. But it's goddamn hard. And I get that. It's a bro hug.
I want to make a point before Amber makes her point, because she's going to be better at wrapping this up than I am.
Well, no, we still got to do the I need to think about it.
Oh, well, shit.
We got one more. So make a point. Amber's going to wrap it up. Amber gets the last
all
word.
right. So quickly, that may feel uncomfortable for some of the people out there listening. But you really have to understand that your potential client has no idea what the options are. Approach it from that standpoint. You're educating them about the options more than you are digging, because they just think there's only one way to do this thing, and I can't do it that way, so there's no other way. They need you to educate them. And I've had this happen many times where I'll give one other option and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't even know you could do it like that." Yeah, I'm in. That's totally fine. And I built up in my mind all this angst about, oh my God. Just give them the option. Nothing wrong with telling them that there's another way.
You're asking these questions to help, not to convince, not to cajole, not to none of that. You're asking because you are trying to help them. That is it.
Cool. I need to think about it objection. Thank you for that, you two. Those are good points. I need to think about it as an objection. This is what clients say when they either don't trust you, don't believe you, or they have unmet objections they're embarrassed to bring up. I'm going to say that once more. I need to think about it is not an objection. This is what clients say when they don't trust you, don't believe you, or have unmet objections they're embarrassed to bring up. Once again, be a curious and confident skeptic. You need to figure out what they actually need to think about. No problem. I totally appreciate how you feel. Other than you having to think about it, is there anything else that's keeping you from being 100% certain that this is the right thing for you and now is the right time? If they say yes, it's probably going to be money or spouse. And then you just move on to the money or spouse objection and just repeat the process, right? If they say no, great. So you feel good about the investment? Everything else makes sense? So there's nothing else keeping you from being 100% certain that this is the right thing for you and now is the right time. You sure? What makes you say that? You're basically just asking them the same question over and over again. Okay. So when you say you need to think about it, because maybe I'm a bit confused. What do you mean? How do you mean? And you're just going to follow that flow. Oftentimes you won't get anywhere close to this far. And then you just handle the real objection. If they still insist on thinking about it after going through this, okay, I totally appreciate that. Let me ask you, how'd you develop that belief that you need to think about it? Have you been burned in the past? Like, where'd that come from? So that burn in the past, let me ask you, do you think the walls that you're building up to protect yourself are preventing the people that want to help from coming in? So let me ask you, from a financial perspective, let's just take a look at it. Will you be financially different in the next 24 hours? So let's walk through it one last time. Let's make sure we get any questions you need to be answered now, and we'll get through those. If they still say they need to think about it, just say, look, it doesn't seem like you're ready to go at this time. Totally cool. I'm here for you. I'm in your corner. So at the start of talking about sales in the book, one of the things that I say is yes is a good answer. No is an acceptable answer. Maybe I'll get back to you and I need to think about it are bad answers. All that they mean is that you didn't go deep, which means you failed both as a salesperson and a coach. I have absolutely no issue with a client saying no, because I know that my services aren't for everybody. They aren't right for most people, to be honest, because trying to build a service for everybody is the only surefire way not to properly serve anybody. It's the maybes that kill me. Let me round this out, and then Amber, it's all you. Nothing happens until you make a sale. Okay. I know the shit's hard, but nothing happens until you make a sale. No actions taken, no change happens. If you don't sell, you can't coach. But that doesn't mean that you should be afraid of sales, because you're a coach and selling is coaching.
I can go.
That was a pretty clear period. Come on.
It was, but it's awkward and I'm awkward. So
it wasn't my time to talk, so I was just waiting patiently.
Okay, so I have two things.
Mhm.
So one is earlier talking about setting like the tone for the call, right? And maintaining kind of control of that call. And so when Alex was here, he had come up with this thing that I thought was really great. When you start a call, is giving them permission to say no at the end. Right. And say, you know, here's the flow of the call, like we talked about yesterday, setting the pace so they know what to expect, but also being like, look, at the end of the call, it's in your best interest to know which direction you'd like to go. If it's yes, great. If it's no, that's okay too. So giving them permission to say no, because it's very scary to tell someone no. And so by giving that permission, it just kind of eases that so you don't end up wasting time later. So that's one thing. The other thing is, in each of those examples that you gave, John, you didn't take the objection at face value, because usually those are not the objections, right? So don't even trust that first objection. Great. If we can resolve that, then would you be, you know, are you down to join in? Don't even try to overcome it, I would say, yet, until you can confirm that's actually what's going on. Because it's usually like the fifth objection in. Great. If we can resolve that, then are you in? If we can resolve that, then are you in? Right? Like there's something much deeper for a lot of people for why they say no, whether it's they're scared of sharing personal stuff, or they failed so many times and they don't know that they can face failure again, or, you know, all these other things that could be going on, or they do think your program sucks, or they misunderstood something that you said, or, you know, all of these things. So the money objection, I need to think about it, whatever. Usually those are kind of like scapegoat objections more than anything.
Yep. Yeah, agree. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive on sales. Really enjoyed going over it with you. If you are looking for another episode to turn to right now, I recommend episode 24 of the Obvious Choice podcast. So just go and wherever you're listening to this podcast, just go back, episode 24. It's called The Big Money Lie You Tell Yourself. You might be having big feelings now. Like I said, this stuff's hard. Like there's a lot going on. And so money is a subject that's worth talking about, that's important to talk about. Money is not there's something that, you know, sometimes we've got some like deep rooted stuff we need to get over. And so we have a really honest conversation about money, about coaching, about how it's okay to want money, to charge money. And I recommend you check that one out. So that's episode 24, The Big Money Lie You Tell Yourself. Great. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.